I think I've had a pretty unique experience, having lived through so many different kinds of trauma, gone on this healing journey, and traversed so many different frameworks and modalities to now work in the field. So when I share, it's from the perspective of a patient turned therapist. And I think there's a pretty beautiful resonance with the people who connect to my content. There are so many people that have no idea that they've got trauma, or they've got trauma but they have no idea where to start, or they might have been trying many different things but something's not shifting, something's really not clicking. It's like they're 10 degrees off getting it. And I think the reason that I create the content that I do is that I hope that little pieces here and there connect to people and it propels them forward on their journey to heal. I know if there was someone like me with all of this content back then, my life might have turned out in a pretty different way. So it comes from a very personal place. What wasn't lacking? I mean, none of the doctors or health professionals had any idea about trauma. Not one person on my pretty epic nearly 20 years in both mental health and mainstream health asked me about my past. No one knew that I'd been physically and emotionally abused as a child. No one knew that I'd been sexually assaulted. No one knew that I had fragmented voices screaming inside me and that my body was braced with tension. Nobody knew that what might have helped would be a kind word or a gentle touch of support. So I guess trauma-informed care was lacking, kindness was lacking. I had some pretty awful experiences in hospitals and doctors' offices. And I think that had there been trauma-informed care, my life would have taken a different turn. And there's still such a severe lack of that now. But what there is now that there wasn't back then too is there's just amazing resources on trauma. There's books, there's online courses, there's content creators on social media, and I'm one of them that are providing these tools to help the many people that can't access support. And yeah, I often think, what would it have been like if back then someone asked, tell me about your childhood, or what's happening in your body right now, or what would you need to feel a little bit safer? None of those questions were asked. There's nothing wrong with you, and in the context of your trauma, you make perfect sense. I think when we've gone through trauma, there's an inherent experience of shame. We think something's wrong with us and that we're broken and that we just don't belong here, and we're confused. Why do we feel like this? It's like we're looking at everybody else living in the world and feeling like we don't quite fit, or we're feeling like we don't belong in our bodies or in this time on the planet. And that's because we're traumatized. We've learned through the trauma that we don't belong, that we're not welcome, that we don't matter, and we don't deserve care and respect. And I think knowing that none of that is true and that there is a path to healing is the message that I'd want to share.